Hello there, Domainers. My name is Phil Milner, and welcome back to Film Domain. We are celebrating this Halloween season by bringing you some rankings of some of the most iconic horror franchises of all time. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the Friday the 13th franchise. Not only are the Friday the 13th films a great watch this time of year, but it's also a great time to watch the movies because the newest box set from Shout Factory just released earlier this month. And let me tell you, it's awesome. Now, I've seen all 12 of these movies dozens of times, but I have recently watched all of these movies again from the box set to prepare for these rankings. Will we have more similarities than differences? Let's find out. And just a heads up, you can expect some minor spoilers in this video, so proceed with caution if you haven't seen these movies for some reason. I promise you, they are all fun to watch, and even if most of them aren't very good, they are incredibly entertaining. The unfortunate victim of last place is going to be Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday. Yeah, I think this movie is a popular choice for dead last of the series. I do give first-time director Adam Marcus credit for trying to do something different with the franchise, but this just wasn't the something different that fans wanted or needed. Much like the big faux pas with Halloween 3, Jason Goes to Hell makes a similar mistake with erasing the fan-favorite villain from a bulk of the movie. We want to see Jason, guys, not some random possessed people killing for him. Not only that, but the plot gets incredibly messy and bizarre with an attempt to explain how to kill Jason with a family bloodline and a special dagger. I don't know. If it sounds weird, it's because it is. It does have a sweet ending, however, with Jason's mask getting pulled by Freddy Krueger straight to hell, which is exactly where this film needs to go. Coming in at 11th place is Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood. One thing that stands out about the Friday the 13th franchise is that the films aren't afraid to explore new areas and try new things. While the first few movies in the franchise stuck to a basic and similar concept, the later movies in the franchise attempted to put Jason in bizarre scenarios to make the movies feel fresh. And what better way to make a Jason movie feel fresh than to have him battle a girl with telekinetic powers? Yeah, that's the gimmick this movie goes with, but it doesn't quite succeed in my opinion. The pacing of the movie is frustrating with long shots of Jason walking through the woods, extended scenes of attempting to explain the telekinetic plot point of the main heroine. Mix that in with some of the most boring and unlikable characters in the franchise, and you've got yourself a dud of a movie. Even the kills couldn't bring this movie back from the dead, because the movie was unfortunately censored into oblivion by the MPAA. Thanks, Ratings Board. You are and have always been the worst. Here's a question for you. Have you ever wondered what would happen if we launched Jason 400 years into the future and put him in space? Well, boy, do I have good news for you. Jason X is rounding out the top 10 of this list, and I have to admit that I really do enjoy this movie. It's awful, but in the best way possible. There's so much camp, charm, and absurdity in Jason X that it's actually kind of hard not to enjoy. We have some great kills, some actually good characters, some throwbacks to classic moments from the franchise, and a half-robot Uber Jason. And if all that doesn't deserve a spot in the top 10, I don't know what does. At number 9, we have The Clash of the Titans, Freddy vs. Jason. The process of getting this movie made began all the way back in the early 90s once New Line Cinema obtained the rights to the Friday the 13th franchise. In fact, the first movie New Line Cinema put out in the Friday the 13th franchise was Jason Goes to Hell. Talk about getting off to a rocky start. With New Line now owning both Jason and Freddy, and the ending of Jason Goes to Hell strongly hinting at a clash between the two horror behemoths, it actually wouldn't be for another 10 years that the idea came to fruition. Freddy vs. Jason infamously had a very troubled production process. Many filmmakers were called in to take a stab at the best way to pit these two against each other, and New Line seemed to be doing their best to get it right, but I don't think the final project was as good as we had all hoped. But we do get some pretty great Freddy vs. Jason action, and that's all we really wanted. It's just a shame that the two sadistic villains are the most likable characters in the movie. I say this often when it comes to horror movies, but if your audience is actually rooting for the serial killers to kill off the main and supporting cast, you probably messed up. I will say that Freddy kind of dominated Jason the entire movie, and had it not been for an unfair triple team advantage at the end, Jason would have unquestionably lost. Sorry, Team Jason fans, but Freddy won this round. Slicing in at number 8 is going to be the original Friday the 13th. Yeah, I'm doing this. I'm putting the original movie at number 8. I'm saying there are 7 sequels better than the original in this franchise. I know that's going to rub a lot of you the wrong way, but hear me out. This series will always be about Jason Voorhees. In the same way that I knocked Jason Goes to Hell, I also need to knock the original. Pamela Voorhees is a great killer, and when audiences first saw the movie in 1980, it was a huge shock. But I didn't watch this movie in 1980. I still had another 10 years before I even became a thing. And I had seen many Friday the 13th movie before I sat down to watch the original. The shock wasn't new to me because I'd always known that Jason's mom did some killing. I think it's important to point out that the effect of a lot of these movies can be lost on a newer generation of audiences because the surprise is spoiled for them or the movie just simply isn't new anymore with its ideas. I'm a Jason man born and raised. Sorry, Mrs. Voorhees, but we're here for your son. We're cracking into the top 7 now, and this is where the list gets a little frustrating for me because I think all of the remaining movies are very enjoyable, and depending on the day you ask me, my answer for the next 3 movies could change. For this ranking, however, I'm going with Friday the 13th Part 3, or 3D, and number 7. This film is most memorable for being the movie that introduced us to the infamous hockey mask that Jason would wear for the remainder of the franchise, and I give it a huge bonus for that. The film is also one of the first movies to use state-of-the-art 3D technology. Well, state-of-the-art for the 80s anyway. That process didn't prove to be easy for the cast and crew either. Production was often a nightmare for everyone involved, as they tried to get the equipment and camera ready for all of the 3D nonsense going on, often running behind schedule and reshooting scenes 30 to 40 times to get it right. Still, I think the finished product was pretty good all things considered, though I will point out that all of the focus on the technical aspects of the show really put the acting on the back burner. This is probably one of the worst acted movies in the franchise, and that's saying something because this franchise has some pretty bad acting. Floating in at number 6 is going to be Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes a Boat. I mean Vancouver. I mean Manhattan. Jason Takes Manhattan was an ambitious idea. What would happen if we took one of the most famous and grisly murderers in history and dropped him into one of the busiest, most urban places on Earth? The world may never know because that's not what we got. Instead, Jason Takes Manhattan uses the majority of its runtime to put Jason on a boat, leaving the actual city to the third act of the movie. And even when we do get to the city, it ain't Manhattan. Due to budget constraints, they had to film most of the city stuff in Vancouver. Turns out only a single scene was actually shot in Manhattan. Talk about a misleading title. All of the complaining out of the way, I will still say that I find this movie enjoyable. It's incredibly ridiculous, but in a good way. Jason has developed a new ability to teleport, and he uses it to perfection. Tie that in with one of the funniest and most forced plot devices to establish a connection between Jason and the heroine, and you have yourself a top-notch Friday the 13th movie. And I know Jason Takes Manhattan is often regarded as one of the worst from the franchise, but I find more positive takeaways from this movie than I do from others, so I'm just going with it. Let's talk top 5. And I already know that this next movie being so high is going to anger a lot of fans and make me look like a hypocrite. But Friday the 13th Part 5 A New Beginning is one of the most enjoyable movies in the franchise, and I low-key love it. I know that I've knocked a few other movies for not having Jason in them, and this movie certainly doesn't, outside of a dream sequence and some visions, but Roy being the killer actually surprised me at the end. I know they made it obvious with all those dumb close-ups, but I watched this movie when I was 12, and 12-year-old me didn't pick up on those kinds of cues, because I was stupid. It also helps that Part 5 has some of my favorite characters, moments, and kills from the series. Ethel and Junior are top-tier Friday the 13th characters, and I don't care what anyone says. The Belt Tree kill is the best kill in the franchise, and of course, we can't forget about those enchiladas. Number 4 is going to be the Friday the 13th remake. I know that remakes aren't supposed to get a lot of love, but let me just tell you, this remake is pretty darn good. I'm pleased to say that New Line Cinema finally got something right. It only took them 16 years. The Friday the 13th remake gave fans exactly what they wanted. A whole lot of Jason and a whole lot of awesome kills. The characters still kind of suck here, but they are more fleshed out than characters in previous installments, and a few of them are actually funny. The opening 20 minutes of the movie are stellar. Really, just perfect. I don't have a lot of bad things to say about this movie, and if it weren't for my undying love of the next 3 films on the list, it could possibly be number 1. Slicing in at number 3 is Friday the 13th Part 4, The Final Chapter. The movie that was supposed to be the finale of the series has a lot to love about it. We have the introduction of Tommy Jarvis, the Doublemint twins, a young Crispin Glover who is rocking some serious dance moves. If only he could find the corkscrew without Jason's help. I think this movie does a great job of wrapping up the original quartet of Friday films. We have some really gnarly kills of humans and bananas that deserve respect. A lot of fans hail Part 4 as the best of the franchise, and while I do think it's close, I still feel that there are two movies that are better. Number 2 on this list is going to Friday the 13th Part 2. I don't take what I'm about to say lightly, but Friday the 13th Part 2 is the best directed of the entire series. I can tell a lot of thought and planning went into this production. I think the entire film is expertly paced between getting to know the characters and getting to know what they look like dead. Yeah, a few of the characters are still shallow and definitely kill bait, but I like how we spend some time with these characters and get to know them. It makes us actually feel something when they are inevitably killed off. I also really enjoy the build-up to a lot of the kills in this movie. The opening sequence is really good, and Final Girl Jenny is the best Final Girl of the franchise. That means number 1 is going to Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. I'll be honest with you, this is the first Friday the 13th movie I ever saw, so there's definitely some bias going on here. But after rewatching the entire series over and over again, this is still the movie that remains supreme in my mind. The movie was well ahead of its time with its tongue-in-cheek, self-aware characters. I feel it's the most balanced Friday the 13th movie when it comes to everything we know and love about the franchise. It has Jason, great kills, good characters, funny dialogue, terrifying moments, and just a slight touch of the absurd. It's definitely the most entertaining of the franchise with its fantastic pacing and satire. I guess I just feel like Jason Lives does the best job summarizing the entire franchise. It feels like a fan-made film, and that's an awesome thing. And that's our ranking for the Friday the 13th franchise. Do you agree? I doubt it. So let us know what you think in the comment section below. Thanks for joining us for these rankings today, and you can look forward to more film-related content in the future right here at Film Domain.